Lamas, ABC News correspondent Tom Lamas. Tom, thanks for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
You're in McAllen, Texas, and you are following the stories of some of these immigrants. What do you know? What do you hear?
Well, I'll tell you what we saw, which is even better. We were right there up close as two migrant families were smuggled into Texas. We happened upon it. We were doing an embed with the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol agent, Robert Rodriguez, was like, I want to show you an area where families are smuggled through just so you can see how the terrain is different. And we get out of the car, and not 5 feet from the vehicle, we notice two mothers coming up, look of desperation on their face, covered in sweat, confused, and a man with no shirt who takes off running in the opposite direction. The Border Patrol agent, Rodriguez, takes off running after him. We follow. You can watch all the video on abcnews.com. The man jumps into the Rio Grande into an inflatable raft and paddles back to Mexico, escaping. The Border Patrol agent tells me no doubt that was a smuggler because of the way he was dressed, a shirt, shorts, no shoes, essentially running and willing to jump back in the river where he knows the Border Patrol agent won't jump in to detain him. And then taking off. Back on land, we find the migrant families, and there's a 19-year-old mother, and she's carrying her infant son, a 1-year-old named Angel. And I asked her, I said, what could compel a mother to leave her native Honduras, travel for a month through Mexico, cross the Rio Grande with an alleged smuggler, and come into Texas illegally? And she tells me, gangs threatened to kill my baby. They already killed his father. And she tells me this in between tears. The other mother tells me that in Honduras, it's pure poverty. There's crime everywhere. There's no justice. That she's not a bad person, that her daughter is not a bad person. They just came here because they need help. She also broke down in the middle of our interview, explaining to me why she did this and why they came into the U.S. illegally. And now the Border Patrol sees this every single day. They see these stories every single day, and it has not stopped. And what's interesting is that some in the Trump administration had said the separating of families was going to be a deterrent. At least with these two mothers who have been traveling for the last month, they had not heard of this policy. They didn't even know it had been reversed. They looked at me like I was crazy when I was trying to explain to them the policy because they hadn't heard about this. But right now it's a confusing situation because the Customs and Border Patrol agents were separating families. Now they're not doing that anymore. And you have three different agencies, CBP, Health and Human Services, which is housing these undocumented immigrant children, and ICE, which is enforcing the law, and they're trying to make sense of the executive order because the Trump administration still wants a zero-tolerance policy. If you cross illegally, you need to be prosecuted. But right now they're not prosecuting families because they can't separate them. So the families are not being prosecuted. It's essentially catch and release again.
Tom,
So
quickly.
it's sort of back. We're going back to the past.
Tom,
yeah.
two quick questions. What do you mean by a smuggler? Did this woman pay this guy to bring her across? Was he doing it on his own? Was he doing it for somebody else? Explain what a smuggler is.
The mothers told us that they did not pay that man to take them across the border. That's what they said. The Border Patrol agent said he guarantees that was a smuggler because of the man's actions and the way he was dressed. If you see this video, you'll see what happens. Right. But the Border Patrol agent makes a point to tell me that these smugglers have frightened these people beyond repair. That a lot of times they pay them thousands of dollars just to take them across the Rio Grande. And this guy was in an inflatable raft. It's not like he had a high-tech operation. They pay him thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, and then when they get over, the smugglers sometimes have bandits hiding in the brush that then rob and rape these women after they've already paid the smugglers. And that's one of the major concerns for Customs and Border Protection and the Border Patrol. They say people don't understand how dangerous and how vile these smugglers are.
Tom, what happened to the mothers you were following?
So they're both going to seek asylum. They'll be processed here in McAllen, Texas. They're not going to be separated. They'll stay with their children. And they most likely will get an ankle monitor possibly, and they'll get a court date, and they'll have to report to the court date. And sometimes those families show up for the court dates, and sometimes they don't.
And that's the exact policy that President Obama had during his administration, right, with the ankle bracelets?
Very similar, right.
Yeah. Tom Lamas, ABC News correspondent in McAllen, Texas. All of this is on abcnews.com?
Yep. Good morning, America. World News Tonight, and I appreciate you for having us on and hearing us out.
Tom, thanks for the work. Good job. Thanks.